Hello Malaysia, apa khabar? My name is Ben Ibrahim and this is The Disruptor, the Creative 2022 Conference Edition. The Southeast Asian landscape, everyone, for digital content talents is as diverse as the multi-ethnic cultures, languages, and traditions of over 680 million people in the region. Recent research led by MDEC in partnership with more than 10 regional industry associations and over 120 studios and schools. To have an overview of the landscape for Malaysia and the region, we recently caught up with Mohan Low, Director of Digital Creative Content right here in MDEC, in this very insightful interview and discussion. Let's check it out with Mohan.
So the report is trying to keep the Southeast Asian market, industry, as well as Malaysian companies, prepared for the future. We've always been looking at doing research to keep all of these different parties, right, up to date on the different trends. And so this year we are doing the talent report, looking at the international trends of how, technology is disrupting many of the existing digital content spaces, new business models, and just main global competitiveness of this content. We decided that talent was an important area that we wanted to focus on, and then hence why the talent report came about. Some of the key things about the talent report were, we've seen the growth of companies, and now the average studio size is about 50. So they're now mostly mid-sized companies, hoping to get to the hundreds, the 200s and 300 studios, which are the top studios that we have in the country. And so one thing we realized is that studios are all growing. They are like on average 50 people right now. I think the other important key takeaway is that there is, the region and Malaysia especially, we have the right talents. We have a good and strong, deep talent pool. The only issue is that there's been fierce competition, right, for all of this talent pool. We've seen many new studios coming up and setting up, and they're all expanding. One of the statistics, is that on average, the studios are growing at about 8% per year, right? So to keep up with all this demand, obviously, there's this need for huge talent. I mean, there's so many different jobs in the industry. I think the demand for animators, the demand for VFX artists, and I think from a technical perspective, there are some roles that are like kind of hybrid roles. We call them like technical artists. So these are guys that are, or people that are both fluent in technology as well as arts, right? So to find this rare breed is, and so these are some of the more challenging skills sets that you need to find. Production managers, coders. In fact, I think I would say across the board, right, there is a huge demand for talent. So specifically these are all from the technical and production side of things. Now, obviously, from a business side as well, I think there's a stronger need for entrepreneurship as well, improving skills in business negotiations and pitching. These are all valuable skills, right? At least from the entrepreneur side that needs to be improved on. So we collaborated with most of the associations in the region. This has always been a collaborative effort. So we work with INAKI from Indonesia, SGGA from Singapore, TAKA from Thailand. So usually about this 5 or 6 countries that we collaborate with in drawing all of this information. The people that we probably talk to are studio heads, academics as well, to identify, right, how the industry demands and how the supply of that talent, right, is being met. So this would be the primary people, and the roles that they would play would be in providing as anecdotal as well as information, right, about this area. I think the 8% growth is definitely one of the most telling signs. because every country, every studio on average, the minimum they're going to grow is about 8% next year. So that's going to tell you that if you have 10,000 people employed, right, they're looking at 800 growth every year in terms of, and that's a lot of people to fill up, right? And that's just expanding on the number of people. We also need to upskill these people as well for new technologies that are in place. So definitely, I think again, I reiterate the 8% growth CAGR as well as the average size of 50 men in a studio right now are good indicators, right, that this is a healthy industry, right, to be investing in, either from a business or from a talent perspective. Oh, definitely, actually. So if you look at how the internet has evolved, right? You look at how Web 1.0 was, you look at it, is they're web developers. You need to look for PHP, MySQL programmers. And then when you go to Web 2.0, you're looking at things like mobile development, right? So you need app developers in the second stage of the internet. Now the third stage of the internet is connected virtual spaces, right? This is what the metaverse is. They're open and interconnected virtual spaces, virtual worlds. And so underlying all of this is actually what their game technologies, their game engines are going to power it, the content that's going to be in there. So if you want to extrapolate, right, how the internet is going to evolve, right, and then when you had the demand for web developers and a demand for app developers, you're not going to have the demand for content developers, right, in Web 3.0. So this is a huge, I guess, landslide of talent demand, right, is going to come in, right? So the entertainment industry itself, right, is evolving. We've got things like virtual productions. So if you've ever watched films like The Mandalorian, like 70-80% of the film was done from an LED screen in a game engine, right? And so filmmaking is changing. Even animation pipelines are changing. In today's keynote talk, I think the Unreal Engine addressed how you could change, right, the animation workflow from into a real-time workflow. The ability to change and make changes on animation rather than waiting for the scenes to be rendered and then come back and make those changes, and being able to make all those changes on the fly. So these are all things that are changing and affecting the technologies, right, in the animation industry, in the film industry, in the games industry as well. So there are a lot of things that's going to change that as well. Like I mentioned, we haven't even talked about what we call the industrial metaverse, right? It's like, as recently, even in our Level Up event, we had Petronas, even Geely, the car maker, in the event. I mean, like, what's a car maker doing in a gaming event, right? And this was a place for them to look at how to expand their businesses. Their cars getting more and more interactive down the road. You have things like smart cabins and dashboards to visualize maybe the LiDAR around the car and to show a visualization of your car as you're driving. So there's all kinds of things that's going to come up from here. So the demand for talent isn't just going to come from animation companies or game companies, but it's going to come from the BMWs of the world and the Petronases of the world as well. I think the report will indirectly affect them at least through the hiring process, right? Number one, because the report is meant for the industry. And so for the studios, they will now understand that what are the kind of skill sets and that are in demand from the other studios, and to see how they want to train their own training programs internally. So it will definitely benefit the talent pool outside. Also, at least in the form that they can validate that this industry is a stable industry for people to work in. Especially most people, kids, when they're growing up, you want to tell your parents, I want to work in a game company or animation company, and it's better to go be an accountant or something like that. This report will actually help, and inform those decisions, right? That there is, especially when it's published by the government also, it gives confidence, right, that there is an industry that their children's future, right, has stable and secure, right? And from this report, you can tell that these companies are big, they're growing. There are 50-man companies today, all targeting to be hitting 100, 200 people in the next couple of years. And again, 8% growth is pretty significant for an industry. I think also the industry talks about career progression paths, right? So that's something that's missing at the moment, or rather, there is a lack of guidance on career progression, right, for younger talents. And so this is something that I think the report will inform at least the academics, or even I think studios in providing a clearer career progression path, right, for talents. Yeah, I think studios are trying to evolve. They need to evolve after the pandemic for sure. And even though we're entering endemic stage, people have gotten accustomed from the ability to work remotely. And I think one of the bigger challenges, actually, even for companies here, is that international companies, especially for work, some of this work, it is possible to do most of it remotely. And so the challenge for talent isn't just among local companies or regional companies. You have, international US companies coming and offering, US-based international rates, right, for local talents these days. So this is becoming a challenge actually for the local studios. And they're definitely the studios have to provide policies right now and structures where you can allow alternative working methods for the employees, right? So the pandemic has definitely had an impact, I would say, on how studios operate, hire and retain, right, their talent. So if you look at the last 3 years, right, even during the pandemic, right, we had easily 5 to 6 studios set up in Malaysia alone, right? Not even looking at the region as a whole. So there's definitely a trend that international studios, international companies recognize the talent pool that's available in the region. So there is still I would say, healthy funnel of companies that are interested, to explore the region and Malaysia as a potential source of a new production base, at least. So international companies setting up is definitely happening, and I foresee it to continue happening. On the other area of the M&As, I think consolidation is a large part of the global scene itself. If you look at the trends of the global trends of how business models and metaverse technologies, as well as just the rapid change of technologies at this point of time, this creates a need, right, for companies to be super focused on a few things, right? And the only way you can do that is to scale. They need to scale to get the right skills, the right talents, right, rather than trying to train every part of the tech stack. So consolidation is actually happening across the industry. Animation companies that are acquiring game companies that are acquiring animation companies, and even within industries, right? If you're looking at the local scenes, we had companies like iCandy from Australia, which acquired App Explore, which is a mobile development company, and then merged it together with a AAA production company called Lemon Sky, and so they created a new company called Sky Candy. So within the industry itself, we are seeing consolidations which are aligned and mirrored to what the global scale is doing. If you look at the top 25 companies in the gaming world, right, there are only 5 of them actually. At the end of the day, the top 100 companies are all consolidated back to 5 companies when you look at the ownership structure. And I see this trend continuing to increase. Even some animation studios I've seen like Circle Studio and the Scribble Studios, they've been kind of acquired in Indonesia. We've got studios like Toge Productions that have acquired Tahoe Games. So you can see this happening across the board, right? Consolidation is going to be a norm in the industry. I think the most easiest use of the report is as for investors, actually. For investors that's looking to invest into the region, this gives an idea of the talent pool, the skill sets, the types of companies that exist, right, in the region. And it makes it easier for investments to happen in the region. So that would be, I think, like one of the most direct outcomes, I think, that the report will do. Right? We've had people from even Japan, right, that has read the report, previous reports, right, and visited Malaysia because they've read the report and so forth. What was the other part of the question again?
Any areas of improvements?
I think there are definitely a lot of areas of improvements. From the report itself, I think obviously the sample size, we would love a bigger sample size, and to be able to expand the analysis, right, of the report itself. But if we're looking at from an industry perspective, I think some parts of the industry needs to start looking at how to explore alternative funding methods. I think that's one of the areas that the industry could improve on. And from a talent perspective, the industry needs to see how they can support the development of talent and not just depend, right, on the IHLs, right, to produce, right, the workforce that they need, right. The realities of our modern industry and ecosystem is that technology is evolving way too fast, right, for schools to produce the right teachings, or the schools itself needs to evolve, right, in a way that they can provide the right talent and skill sets for the right timing. Yeah.
That was Mohan Low, Director of Digital Creative Content right here in MDEC. Malaysia and MDEC are looking forward to seeing this industry grow further through existing networks and exploring new partnerships across the region. That's what it's all about, everyone. It's not just about having a great idea, it's about the network and taking that network and content to higher levels. The Southeast Asia Digital Content Industry Talent Report 2002 could not have been possible without the support of the hundreds of studios, associations, universities, and institutes of higher learning from across Southeast Asia. That's all the time we have for you here today. Until the next episode of The Disruptor, I'm Ben Ibrahim, signing off. Take care, stay safe, and catch you later.